It's
Yeah,
just
a buddy of mine
incredible.
had shoulder surgery, and the actual cuts are like millimeters, tiny little
Yeah.
cuts. You barely can see the scars.
It's
and they fixed his shoulder.
amazing. And, you know, with your knee surgery, it was an injury from activity, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you think about people in the past, they weren't necessarily, well, I mean, there were sports in competitions, but mostly people were getting injuries from repetitive, strenuous labor that they were doing.
Sure.
There's a story of a cab driver in the 18th century, and he got this aneurysm behind his knee. So the cab drivers in the 18th century wore these high boots, like riding boots, and it would rub at the back of the knee, and it created this huge aneurysm. And there was a surgeon named John Hunter in London who said, well, normally what you do is you would hack the leg off because if it pops, right?
God.
If it pops, you're going to bleed out. But he said, I have an idea. I want to cut into the leg and I want to tie off the blood supply to the aneurysm. I want to see if that works. And it did. And he saved this guy's leg. And that's really important because remember, these people had no options if they couldn't work. A lot of these people did.
When you say aneurysm, like people think of aneurysm, they think of a brain.
Right. It's like a what's the term? It's a specific kind of aneurysm. It's almost like a balloon that appears on the outside, sort of on the outside. So
just a big sack of blood.
Big sack of blood.
Why didn't they think they could just drain it? That's what I would think.
I
like
think
a hematoma.
if you severed it, yeah, I don't know.
I'd be like, slow down, doc.
Yeah, don't hack that leg off.
I gotta drive this taxi, bitch.
Yeah, and if he had lost his leg, it would have been. And what's incredible about that story actually is that that Hunter saves the leg, and then when the man dies, right before he dies, he knows he's going to die. This is many years later. He writes a letter and he wills his body to Hunter. So this is one of the first early examples to take the leg and to open it up and dissect it and to see what happened. And so that leg is on display at the at the Royal College of Surgeons in London.
So they embalmed it?
Yeah, well, he would have preserved it probably with wax injections, almost like plastination.
Oh, like they did
an
with
early
that
form.
Body. What is that
that
body
weird
exhibit?
guy, Body Worlds.
Yeah, what do you think about
Gunther
that?
Van-
I was very torn when I was walking around this because what a part of me was saying, this is really fascinating. And the other part of me was saying, what is the difference between this and like fucking Ed Gein's house where he made lampshades out of people?
Well, yeah, I mean, one would hope the difference is consent, but
one would hope though.
Yeah, one would hope. Well, there has been controversies with certain exhibitions, maybe not Body Worlds, but there's been some spin-offs where there's been a question of where they got those bodies.
Yes.
And of course, if you're also going into sort of poor areas and asking people to hand over their bodies, is it really consent? Because sometimes these families don't have money for funerals. And
yes.
So there's other incentives. But I think my view is, it's given under the guise of science that we can only view dead bodies through the lens of science today. That's the only acceptable way. But it really is art. And I wish that it would just be more openly recognized as just art, whether it's your kind of thing or not, because some of it is posed in really shocking ways that are unnecessary to teach anatomy.
Right.
So if you're going to say it's an anatomical lesson, why does the person have to be posed in this sort of dramatic way? So I think that, it would be better if we just called it for what it was. It's art, and it's supposed to be provocative and shocking. And that's why people come to see it. And we're morbidly curious.
It is absolutely interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and people say, oh my gosh, the Victorians bought tickets to the operating theater. Well, people come to my Instagram account, I mean, we're still morbidly curious.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.